Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to Yoga and Ancient Civilization Across the World. Sadhguru. Anyways, this is more than likely be a two-parter. I don't think I'll be saying too much, considering this is not necessarily, how to say, the traditional spiritual stuff. It's more along the lines of learning. So let's go ahead and start learning. Save the soil.
The image that is being shown to you right now is 18,000 BC, that means about 20,000 years ago. There are images of homes or buildings built in triangular forms, which are over 8,000 years, that's 6,000 BC, in places like Romania. There are skeletal images of to leave your body with your legs crossed in a proper Siddhasana posture, now in Lebanon. This is a classic representation of Guru Puja stone. Over 15,000 years ago, in the upper regions of Himalayas, a yogi appeared. Nobody knew where he came from, who he was. His antecedents were unknown. Because people did not know his name, they referred to him as Sadhguru first. He just came and sat down. People gathered because he looked like an extraordinary being. Hours rolled into days, days into weeks, weeks into months. Slowly people left, but here this man just sat there for months on end, unmoved. If one has to sit like this, one has to be beyond physical nature. If one is beyond physical nature, he must be in some other dimension of nature. Only 7 people realized this and they hung on. These 7 people are today celebrated as the Saptarishis, or the great 7 sages of India. These 7 people pursued him, and when he decided to share his knowing with them, they say it took many millennia. So, when he shared his knowing, and they all rose to their full enlightenment, he told them, there is no point sitting here. Each one of you should go in different directions and share this knowing with the world. This is very important to understand that it is in the last 12 to 15,000 years that the longing to know got organized and found an organized expression through various systems of yoga. It's fantastic to see that this goes back right up to the time of the Adi Yogi. If we want to look for physical proof, still there's a little bit of physical proof left around the world suggesting these things. I'm not some kind of an archeologist or an expert in these matters, but you will see some of the things that we will look at today will intrigue anyone and set us thinking. We cannot call this 100% proof, but it suggests a few things. What is this all about? Why this has to be connected to Saptarishis? Because it's a particular way of looking at life. When I say particular way of looking at life, it is not about someone's opinion, but it is about an internal reflection of the cosmos, an internal understanding of the nature of creation, and a very internalized understanding of human being and the making of a human being and every other creature on this planet. When I say internal, I am talking about in contrast with modern science, which observes everything from outside and gone quite deep into its observation today,
as to how the physical creation has happened. It is in no way in contradiction with the inner way of looking, it is just that it starts at a different end. It's like if you start looking at a tree from the top, your understanding of the tree will be one way. If you start looking at a tree from its roots, your understanding of the tree will be completely different. Only when a meeting point happens somewhere, they look similar. Today we are coming to a place in the history of modern science and in the development of modern science where mysticism and modern science are beginning to look similar. So, this exploration today will be important in that sense, and as I said, this is not an archeology lesson for you, but it's just to show you that there have been many suggestions to show that the origin of this is Adi Yogi, and from him how it could have reached various places. Within myself, I know it did, but you don't have to go by my experience of life, because somebody else's experience can never be yours. But here is a little bit of physical proof going around. This whole process of Adi Yogi and transmission of this way of knowing started in the region that today we refer to as Manasarovar and Kailash. And from there it spread to places, in different spaces they went. There are many references to the seven sages, particularly in Central Asia, Turkey, Romania, as far as Northern Africa, Arabia. There are continuous references to seven sages in the tradition, even today it is, and you will see in Arabia, in places like Lebanon, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, Sudan, in all these places, even today, popular restaurants are named as seven sages.
Real quick, I know it says they call them the I forgot what the first part, but the rishis. I hope I don't think I pronounced that correctly. The rishis. So Swami Tadamananda talks about these people. Are they the same people? I guess it's the original. I don't know if Swami Tadamananda thinks of these people as the original of Advaita Vedanta, or are these the same rishis? Good Lord, if I could say that word right, rishis that Sadhguru here is talking about, the seven sages.
So that is how much prevalent it is even today. When you ask these people who the seven sages are, nobody knows who the seven sages are in the common knowledge of the people. But from generation to generation for thousands of years, the idea of seven sages coming from the east, seven wise men coming from the east is still very much prevalent in most of the cultures out there. For example, you will see the images of snake worship going back right up to 18,000 BC in places like Siberia and Central Asia. These are very rudimentary images, you must understand, because they are so rudimentary, not because the people who made these things were rudimentary in their mind, but because the tools available to do this was rudimentary. Nobody can ever dig up the whole planet to find out if there are more sophisticated expressions of this. It is just that when you spread a message, just everybody may start doing things. The image that is being shown to you right now is 18,000 BC, that means about 20,000 years ago. The approximate date that we established for Adi Yogi's presence in this region is somewhere between 40 to 60,000 years ago. You might have heard that many times. I've been saying it is 15,000 years ago, because for 15,000 years we have solid physical proof, iconographic proof, which is over 12,000 years old. because of that, we have been saying 15,000, but when I have spoken long time ago, 10, 12 years ago, I've always spoken in terms of 40 to 60,000 years ago, because in the yogic culture, that is how it is seen. But today, without a proof, if you say something, it'll become meaningless in the world. Because of that, we have brought down the date to 12 to 15,000 years. Here is a 18,000 BC, which is 20,000 years ago. They made calendars, which is purely the yogic form of calendar. You will see in India any number of pictures like this. Here is this third image, or the first image which is made into a diagram in the third phase, is three sets of spirals. The central set of spirals and the lower set together represents the solar cycle calendar, which is 364 days, which is the year that we follow even today. And the upper set refers to 354 days, which is the lunar cycle of the calendar, which is what the Hindu calendar follows even today. And a combination of these two, which is today being referred to as lunisolar calendar, this is 20,000 years old, and somebody cannot arrive at this without an inner perspective. Just by observation of the outside, one cannot arrive at a calendar like this, this is a very sophisticated manifestation of the calendar. If this is written in braille, even if a blind person puts his hands around, he will know which day of the year it is, which day of the month it is, and which phase of the moon it is. All these things can be found out just by touching the rock or looking at it.
So did he ever say, like, I'm curious as to how many days is the lunisolar calendar, and I suppose what calendar does India follow now? Is it the solar, or still the lunar?
And
or both?
Along with that comes snake worship, which is the three snakes going up. This is a representation of Ida, Pingala and Sushumna, the three channels within the body. So this is a very yogic expression. India is full of these kind of images. This was found in Siberia, which is dated as 18,000 BC right now by the archeologists. There are images of homes or buildings built in triangular forms, which are over 8,000 years, that's 6,000 BC, in places like Romania. Eastern Europe and Central Asia is full of these kind of possibilities. If you look at the geometric perfection of how it is done, this is the basic form of yantra. Triangular block in Isha Yoga Center is built exactly like this. Unfortunately, we are not 8,000 BC, we are now we built this only about 22 years ago. And they built a perfect yantra-shaped building for whatever purposes that they were doing this. Obviously, these are aligned properly to the eastern direction, and these directions are adjusted to either equinox or solstice usually. Our own buildings like Dhyanalinga and triangular block are adjusted to the equinox, because equinox is significant for me in my perception of life. That is 23rd of September is a equinox, and because my understanding of everything comes from the equinox, I adjusted it to the equinoxes. Some of them adjusted to the solstice. For the Saptarishis, solstice must have been definitely be a most important aspect of their life, because it is on that day, for them, Adiyogi opened up the doors for them. So if you go on like this, there are any number of possibilities. As we go further to Turkey, to further down to Mesopotamian region, Greece, Crete, further down to places like Lebanon and North Africa, you will see geographically every place has something to say where the influence is yogic in its nature, and a whole lot of them going back, way back to like 12,000, 13,000 years. Example, we can see here in Turkey, which is dated as 10,000 BC. This is a very typically Indian image in the terms of a linga or a head with a snake climbing on it, because this is the yogic symbolism of a human being's inner potential being aroused. Or it is the symbolism of Kundalini. Similar images are found as far as South America, in Peru, in Ecuador, in that region. One must understand, most of these things have been either destroyed by age and the natural processes that happen on the earth in terms of earthquakes and other events that happened. At the same time, they've also been systematically destroyed by certain forces in the last 2,000 years or so. Systematic destruction of anything which was considered pagan happened in many areas, and either buried or broken or destroyed or used as material to build other buildings that they wish to build. In spite of that, there is substantial evidence spreading across the planet showing that the influence of the seven sages, the yogic culture and the science of yoga manifesting itself in so many ways. We must understand the proof that we are talking about according to today's archeological substance is only the physical proof. Today, you are doing yoga in United States. Suppose 1,000 years later somebody wants to find out how will they find yoga in you? So, there will be no proof in your home, there will be no proof anywhere that you are practicing yoga in your life. So, it is only when we manifest something which is physical, which is made in such a way that it will last forever, only then we can talk about it. But even for this, we can see that thousands of years ago people practicing yoga, they lived and died in yogic postures. There are skeletal images of people sitting in… See, that could be you when you were doing your Shambhavi Mahamudra, you happened to die or you attain enlightenment and you are conscious enough to leave your body with your legs crossed in a proper Siddhasana posture. See, here somebody died doing Shambhavi, or they died in a Siddhasana posture some 8,000 years ago in Romania. And if this one person did this, I am sure this is not the only person who did this. There must have been a whole culture of this dimension. And there are any number of images showing people sitting in yogic postures. This is usually the representation of Pashupati as one dimension of Adiyogi, that is, he is the Pashupati. They called him Pashupati because all the life forms are claimed to a certain genealogy, and because he exhibited or he demonstrated how everything comes from the same source and that source is nothingness, and he is a representation of that. Because of that, he was called as Pashupati. And also because when he when he sat in certain states, it is something that people have witnessed, that all kinds of creatures gathered around him. Because all of them gathered around him, people saw him as the lord of all creatures, and he is the Pashupati. This is a representation of that. A repetition of these images across the planet in various forms and in various different manifestations of art has found expression in cave arts going as far back as 8,000–10,000 years. And when I say cave paintings and arts, you must understand, today your child is drawing something in your house and sticks it on the wall, and if somebody finds it 10–15,000 years later, the chances of finding it, how remote it is, that is how remote it is for us to find those things. They might have done 1,000,000 artworks, we may find one or we may not. So, in spite of that, so much has been found. We can go on like this in various places, all these manifestations, but the more recent ones would be a certain tribe of people who identified themselves as Minoans. It's called the Minoan culture, or they were also called as Manus in Germany. And in German language, the word Manus means the first man, which has been the essential representation in India. Manu is referred to as the first man or the man. Manu is not a person, Manu is the man, like people refer to Adam in the West. Manu is a man or the origin of the man. When we say a man, that does not exclude a woman, we are referring to a human being as a man. It is somewhere down the line that the usage became like this, when societies became more and more patriarchal and man-oriented. The word that was used to describe a human being started describing only a man, and they had to find another word to describe the female of the species. In Minos in Crete, which is a Greek island today, and Manu in India, in many ways go parallel in their descriptions and the way things are described. The manifestation, now that we are looking at these Saptarishis as being the transmitters of Adiyogi's teaching, naturally wherever they went, the representation of the snake, the bull and the form of the linga manifested itself. You will see in places like Ireland, in very strong representation of the linga worship. The people in Brittany, when I say Brittany, in France, a region which is called Brittany, and when I happened to be in Brittany, they were very excited and they took me to a temple which is supposed to be 6,000 years old, where they were still worshipping the four elements, and they said, we came from northern Gangetic plain and it is our brothers who went to the island, which today is known as Britain. He said, this is real Brittany. So this goes on endlessly, there's a whole lot of pictures we could show you, and there's a whole lot of material which may be a little too much for you to digest in this little time that we have. But we will just run through these pictures for you to just see, for yourself to make out. I will not really say much about it, but just look through this, just see how intriguing and wonderful it is that going way back, the oldest picture that we have is dated as 20,000 years ago. Here is Ireland, you see this snake symbolism, which is typically yogic. And here is the worship of linga. And this spiral, which is the cosmic representation, or it is the manifestation of what we call as the saligram. The inside of the saligram is made like this. This is the image of the Ammonite is used as saligram because that is the representation, the yogic representation of the cosmic galaxies. This is 2000 BC. These spirals This has been one of our thing to build an underground spiral like this in the Indian Yoga Center. We've still not managed to do this. As a process of meditation to go through the spiral, if you go through a dark spiral like this, if at the end of it you will naturally become meditative. We've been wanting to build a proper spiral, a geometrically correct spiral, which only that bottom corner one is the right one, but we are yet to do it. Here is Zeus worshipped as a serpent. The serpent worship is very deep-rooted in every culture on the planet. Of course, you must have seen the Naga temple in the yoga center. This is the image that we have today in the yoga center, but somewhere around 700 BC, a Jewish king ordered that all snake temples must be destroyed because for whatever his own reasons. So systematically these things were broken in that region. Otherwise, the whole of Arabia, Eastern Europe, Northern Africa, South America were full of snake worship and temples were snake worship. Wherever anybody connected with Adiyogi goes, naturally the manifestation of snake and snake worship would be there. Even today, the modern medical sciences using spiral snakes. Mesopotamia, you see many images of this. You must see this in Turkey and Iraq region. There are plenty of broken parts of snake worship. The symbol of commerce even today is a spiral snake with 7 meeting places. The symbol of health is 3.5 spirals of the snake.
I will say, I was thinking of like, I remember watching an old movie, like a Bible movie of the 10 Commandments it was. And in that one, Moses and one of the Egyptian priests, they threw down their staff and it turned to a snake. What's with the snake things now? I'm starting to think. It's like, but the thing is though, is that I look at the Mexican people, well, not Mexican people, the Mayans, they worship, I was trying to think of what do they worship? They worship the jaguar god, I believe it is. I'm wondering if is it just because they don't have snakes? I'm also trying to remember whether Sadhguru talked about North America, but I think it did say South America. Then North Africa, Europe, Middle East, Asia. But I'm wondering maybe why not North America or Central America kind of area. Just kind of, maybe it hasn't been discovered. I'm just kind of curious if what his answer would that be. You know, why not North America? But as he was pointing all these things out, it's like maybe things like, wow, what's with all the snake symbolism?
Which is something that we are using in so many ways. Dhyana Linga is 7-pointed spiral, and Devi Bhairavi is 3.5 spiral. This is how these images are made. This is a physical representation. This could be manifested in so many different ways. This is common knowledge, biblical knowledge, that Moses used a copper snake or a brass snake
Here we go.
to cure people of various things.
No, never mind. Is that true?
And this snake worship continued. At some point even Jesus spoke something about snake worship.
Well, I was going to say the Garden of Eden with the snake that got Adam and Eve banished from it. What's with snakes? I'm just wondering if throughout the entirety of human history, snakes have always been looked as a bad thing. Well, maybe not entirely all cultures of human history, but in terms of maybe specific regions. So biblically, snakes are, I think, bad because of the Adam and Eve situation. I'm trying to think of other things, but yet the World Health Organization had snakes. The medical facilities have, I think it's the twin snakes, I believe. I remember watching a YouTube video about them explaining about the snakes, the staff, but it's a Greek mythology, though. But nonetheless, it still all orients to not like. Let me try to piece this together. In America, there's a whole bunch of people holding staff with snakes. Now, whether it's a single snake or double snake, that's where the confusion lies. And someone said it's supposed to be, I think, a double snake or a single snake. I can't remember which one. Because it's supposed to represent, I think, a Greek god of healing. But then when you think about, okay, where does the Greek god, and why is it snakes, and where that was inspired from too?
There is a statement by Jesus about snake worship or a brass this thing, because in the language of that region, the word snake and the word brass are very similar sounding. So somewhere, I don't know the exact place, but those in America should know this better. The rising of the man is the rising of the snake. This is clearly a yogic statement, that the rising of the kundalini is the ultimate rising of the human being, because without raising your energy to a higher dimension, the evolution of a human being or thinking that a human being is genuinely changing is a illusory process, because whatever changes you make in your attitude and your intentions are purely psychological, and they can be washed away in a moment. If you lose your mind, you would have lost it. But the raising of the human being is only when the energy, the latent energy which we refer to as kundalini, which is clearly represented as a coiled-up snake in the yogic system, it is only in the raising of that there is a permanent transformation in a human being. This is a statement made by Jesus in the Bible, saying that the rising of the snake is the rising of the man, or the rising of the man is the rising of the snake. So these are all different things which says the influence of the yogic system goes right back to 18,000–20,000 years in terms of archaeological proof, and there is really no part of the planet, I think the only place they did not go is North Pole and South Pole.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that too, like North America, and it's like North and South Pole, but it doesn't make sense. It's like freezing cold over there, so I kind of get it for that, at least for that one.
In the Eskimo culture, it does not exist. Literally everywhere else, some influence of this is seen, and it has spread across. And all this done without any kind of compulsiveness, without any kind of force, only by showing the significance of what it is. And there are beautiful representations of more sophisticated manifestation of yogic culture, particularly in Middle East or West Asia, as we call it here.
Okay, I'm gonna actually pause the video right here. So this is very interesting. I'll say the one thing that I can see connected is definitely the snakes. Although I've never seen any of this portion. Then again, I didn't really watch very much archaeology type videos. I was at one point interested in Egyptian just because it's very fascinating how they built those things. Although, you know, YouTube hasn't recommended me archaeology. Hopefully it's listening. But yeah, I haven't really seen much. I've been very much into the nature whenever it was recommended or whatever else YouTube happened to throw my way. But yeah, I don't mind listening to all this kind of stuff, the potentiality of aliens visiting Earth a long time ago, and helping the Egyptians build their things or whatever. I don't know, is it possible? Maybe, sure enough. How likely is it? Doubtful. I think we probably, well, I don't know. It's everything's possible. Very well an alien. Eddie Yogic could have very well been an alien that came down over here, try to show us the way and then left. Kind of like, what's that one movie? Prometheus. Yes. Prometheus is kind of like how Earth was created in a sense. Or like a separate theory of how Earth was populated by DNA or animals. Because there was one theory I remember hearing that humans are not native to Earth. We came from a meteorite that had some form or something that can create life, and then it combined over here. Again, I don't know. It's I don't know. I mean, it's had to start somewhere. Whether it started here, whether we came here on an asteroids field, not us specifically, but life itself came to Earth. So that'd be pretty interesting. And or maybe Yogi came down and dropped the seed of life, left, came back however many years later to show us the way, and then had the 7 disciples, the 7 sages, the rishis. Good Lord, I can't remember what the first word of that is now. But anyways, and then maybe left. I don't know. That's very much possible. But I really, it's all theories, obviously, and Sadhguru is very much right. We kind of have to depend on the physical, and everyone, I do believe everyone personally can, if they want to, depend on their subjective experiences as realities. This is another kind of issue I kind of have with the absolute, well, not I would say absolute, subjective reality, basically the reality that you feel on your own. Because it's not something that's objective. Me feeling the energies, like in Kundalini, just for example, if I feel the energies boiling up inside me, there's no way to show that or prove that. So it has to be considered to be a subjective reality, meaning that I feel it and I know it's real for me, but something that you cannot see. Maybe you experience it, but there's no way to know whether we're experiencing the exact same thing. There's no way to measure. Yep, that's 7 energy and 7. That's exactly 2.25 to 2.25 energy. And there's no objective way to know that. We can only say that we feel something. There's an energy spurt, or there's whatever it is, but it's a subjective thing, and it's something that's very difficult to prove in terms of the scientific mind. Obviously people want proof because, well, bad people will say things falsely to say that it is true without any proof, and that's kind of the problem. I will say that there's going to be bad faith people out there that will say anything to make some money. So people defensively has created their own way to say, I'm not going to fall for things. You have to show me proof. And if you can't show me proof, then I'm not going to believe it. And it's fair enough. I will say at the very least is that if there's no fee or charge and people say experience it for yourself, don't believe me, a thumbs up for that one. Anyways, I'm going to have to end it right here. So there's definitely going to be part 2, obviously, because I probably talked too much. Anyways, that's my part 1 for yoga and ancient civilization across the world. I still don't remember if we talked about North America. But anyways, if you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.